In October 1962, the United States and the Soviet Union came closer to nuclear war than ever before. For 13 tense days, the world stood on the edge of annihilation as two superpowers stared each other down over the small island of Cuba. The crisis began when US reconnaissance planes discovered something shocking: Soviet nuclear missiles were being secretly installed in Cuba. These missiles had the range to strike nearly every major American city in minutes. For Americans, the discovery was terrifying. School children had already been practicing duck and cover drills for years, but now the threat of nuclear war felt immediate, just 90 miles from Florida's coast. President John F. Kennedy was briefed on October 16. His advisors urged strong action. Some called for airstrikes, others for a full invasion of Cuba. But Kennedy knew that a direct strike might trigger all-out war with the Soviet Union. Instead, he chose a measured but bold response: a naval quarantine, blockade, of Cuba. No Soviet ships carrying weapons would be allowed through. On October 22, Kennedy went on television to address the nation. His calm but firm words stunned Americans. The Soviet Union had placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, and the US would not tolerate it. Families sat glued to their screens, fear rising in living rooms across the country. Some people built bomb shelters. Others stocked up on food and water. Many simply prayed. For the next week, the world waited. Soviet ships steamed toward Cuba, while US warships patrolled the seas. At the United Nations, American Ambassador Adlai Stevenson dramatically confronted the Soviets, showing photos of the missile sites. The confrontation was raw, tense, and public. The most frightening moment came on October 27, known as Black Saturday. A US spy plane was shot down over Cuba, and American military leaders pushed Kennedy to retaliate. Meanwhile, Soviet submarines in the Atlantic carried nuclear torpedoes and nearly launched them when cornered by US ships. The fate of humanity hung by a thread. Then, at the height of the crisis, a breakthrough came. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba in exchange for a US promise not to invade the island. Secretly, Kennedy also agreed to withdraw American missiles from Turkey, but that detail was kept quiet at the time. The standoff ended without a single missile being fired. For Americans, relief was overwhelming. The fear of nuclear war had been real and personal. Parents imagined their children wiped out in a flash of light, cities reduced to ashes. The resolution felt like a miracle, proof of the importance of calm leadership in the face of chaos. The Cuban Missile Crisis changed history. It led to the establishment of a direct hotline between Washington and Moscow to prevent future misunderstandings. It also made Americans deeply aware of the fragile balance of power in the nuclear age. For US audiences, the crisis is not just a story of danger but also of courage and restraint. Kennedy's steady hand, the bravery of negotiators, and even the restraint of individual Soviet officers prevented catastrophe. It is heart-touching because it shows how close humanity came to destruction, and how wisdom and communication saved the world. The Cuban Missile Crisis remains one of the most dramatic episodes in US history, a moment when every American felt the weight of history pressing down on their shoulders, and a reminder of just how thin the line between peace and annihilation can be.